Okay, it is the top of the hour. We're going to go ahead and get things started. This is Mike Anderson, Senior Internal Wholesaler here at American Independent Marketing. Appreciate everybody making your time available. We know it's a busy time of year. We do appreciate the commitment that you're making. I know we got some folks all the way out in Hawaii who have joined us very early this morning, so we appreciate that. We do believe that the next 30 minutes or so is going to be of value to you. So like I said, refill that cup of coffee and get ready to go. We're in lecture mode, as we always are on our webinars. Lecture mode means that we've got everybody muted. That way we get a good quality recording. No dog barking, Amazon guys showing up, tea kettles whistling, or agents making a sale or attempting to make a sale on a secondary line. We will get this thing posted, get it loaded to our website. All of our recordings are loaded on the website, and they are available for you to go back to, take advantage of, take a look at, etc. And our next webinar next week be hosted by Derek Lape. It's called the Pivot Playbook, and I think that kind of I guess I better share my screen. A little detail here. All right, so we will share the screen. All right, got that taken care of. Thanks for that. Worry about the audio stuff more so than the other. Anyway, next week's webinar is the Pivot Playbook. Derek will be the host there, and that is part of an ongoing series that we are in the middle of, where we are working with the agents to get them to see the value of doing more things than just what I would call the main lane senior market pieces, Medicare Advantage and Medicare Sup. There's so much more opportunity. And one of the things that we're stressing as we go around the corner into AEP, we are stressing this idea that we can help you stabilize the revenue in your agency and grow the revenue in your agency. But to do that, you have to be in a situation where you are willing to engage and do things differently than what it was you were looking to do before. So with that in mind, today we are going to take a look at this idea of need versus necessity. So over the next few minutes, we're going to talk about that specifically. We're going to talk about why long-term care fits in there and where it fits in there. And we're going to really stress this idea that the client making no decision is a decision, and it is the worst possible choice that they can make. I never presume that everybody on the call understands all of the detail stuff, so take a second here to look at the basics of long-term care and what those needs are, primarily centering around this idea of assistance with activities of daily living. There's also a situation in there where severe cognitive impairment comes into play. One of the great misunderstandings about this is that it's a medical care driven function, where in fact it's much more about personal care than the medical care. So in most cases, it's going to be things that take care just to keep somebody able to do things on a daily basis rather than improve. In a lot of cases, it's simply a function of aging, and improvement on that really isn't going to happen. So you can see that there are multiple different ways that they can make use of this, and we will keep circling around to this point, which is that having to pay it out of pocket is way below suboptimal. There are so many other ways that you can make certain that these folks do not have to do that. So why does it matter? All right. Well, probably the most important thing I could tell you is right there at the top. Okay. There's about a 0.5% chance that you're going to run into somebody who truly has the funds to self-fund. It's not self-insuring. Okay. It's self-funding. And the reason I say that is because if they're going to self-insure, they're going to put $250,000 in the bank for Bob and $250,000 in the bank for Carol. And as always, our clients are Bob and Carol Davis. Okay. Anything that they do that's less than that, and they put it in their with a commitment to each other that they're going to let that money sit there and it's going to grow at 3.5%, whatever interest they can get. All right. If they're not going to do that, then they're self-funding. So that's probably 99% of the people that don't want to have a conversation with you about that. That's what it is that they're doing. So, okay, it's not quite a guarantee, but it's pretty damn close that a retirement plan is not going to be able to withstand a $7,000 a month hit on top of what they're already dealing with as far as living expenses, maybe a condo, a house that they built, a dream house proverbially, a car that they bought, whatever that is, they're not going to be able to withstand that. And then the problem is out of nowhere, long-term care, or what seems like nowhere, long-term care costs come in and they create this chaos. And when I say it seems like it's out of nowhere, what happens so much of the time is the family is scrambling to stall off the obvious. They are scrambling to take care of Bob or to take care of Carol amongst the family group. And there's all these different concessions that get made. And we have had other webinars about that. And then all of a sudden it reaches a point where they can't stall it off anymore. Boom. So it goes from gradually to suddenly quite quickly. And then you're talking about shelling out $6,000 or $7,000 a month, almost doubling the draw out of all this different retirement planning that they put together. Okay. Talked about this a lot. The idea for us with long-term care is this idea of the American dream. That was a phrase coined by a guy named John Truslow Adams. He's almost 100 years ago. He had some fancy language around it. For our purposes, the American dream is essentially a well-funded retirement adventure. Okay, it's the nest egg. The problem with protecting the American dream is that only 10% of the people that are lining up to take part in this American Dream program, only 10% of those people actually have taken any steps to do this. That means that 90% of those people, you could do the math. I mean, it doesn't require a graduate degree from some fancy school. You can do the math. That means that 90% of the people, for all of you agents that are on this call, 90% of your clients, 90% of your friends, 90% of your family, all of the things that intersect in your life, 90% of those people have never had a conversation about how to do this, okay? And that, in a few minutes when we circle back around to the need versus necessity, you'll see that a big part of this has just been sort of, I'm going to call it a misorientation on our part about really what we should be pointing these clients towards, okay? And the truth is, long-term care is the difference maker in protecting this American dream, but our 2020 mindset isn't going to work on that, okay? More now than ever, and we're seeing this as we're having conversations about it, but value matters more than anything else. One of the really interesting things about this, I was thinking about it the other day, is that the intel that we're getting is from people in the field who are the most reluctant to try and engage in a conversation to help these clients out. Agents are telling us that more and more they're getting inquiries from people wanting to know what they can do to address this situation. And that is happening because these families have seen this up close and personal now, where it wasn't happening before. They've seen it up close and personal, and they're trying to figure out what to do. Along the way, they've been given the impression that it's too expensive, that it's not of value. Disagree there. They've also been given the impression that because of X health problem, Q health problem, Z health problem, that they can't get anything to help them out. Really important to remember as we move forward, any plan is a good plan. The one plan that's not a good plan is either not talking to them or letting them make the decision to not make a decision, as I talked about before. And thankfully, we've got more options now than we've ever had. That's a good thing for us. It's a good thing for them. And remember, when we're having this conversation, we're going to dismiss this whole idea that people are in the insurance business to help other people. People are in the insurance business to make a living. Okay, so let's just be honest with ourselves about that. Part of what we want to do in that process here, part of what we want to do is work with you as agents. I said this a few minutes ago. We want to work with you to stabilize the revenue equation in your agency when there is all this upheaval and all this disturbance and all this disruption going on around the centerpiece of the senior health market, which is some piece part of the Medicare equation. Along the way, we want to do what we can to help you improve what we call your value proposition score. And that value proposition score is how your clients feel about the things that you do to help them out. Okay? If they don't see you as a resource, and if they don't see you as the person they turn to get answers, and if they're not 100% confident that when they get a notice that an insurance premium increases, whatever it is, their immediate reaction should be, we don't need to panic. We need to talk to. Our agent today is Fred. We need to talk to Fred about this. Fred will take care of us. He's always taken care of us. We can count on him to do that. If you are paying attention to the things that we're talking about and you're engaging in some of the behavior that we're talking about, your value proposition score for your clients is going to soar. And that's what we're looking to do with you. Okay. Some things to consider, and this goes back probably to 2010 or so with regard to the long-term care part of the industry letting America down. Okay. If you really kind of step back and think about it, simply by stepping away, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody specifically on this call so much, but just stepping back and looking at it, we kind of abdicated what you'd consider to be a fiduciary responsibility to clients. All right. We lost sight of the fact that Americans engage in complex and difficult financial transactions all the time and conversations all the time. We have a chance now to reconsider most of the things that we're saying to people and a lot of the things that we're asking about them. One of the big parts of this, and for those of us who are here in Washington, and a big chunk of you are, I know, the long-term care trust idea, and that's a generalized concept because they're going to call it different things in different states, but that concept and what happened in Washington in 2021 has changed the thinking elsewhere, and that actually benefits the people that are in the business that we're in, and that clearly includes you. And the other thing is along the way, we have developed multiple non-traditional solutions to help these folks out. All right. So one of the things, and it goes back to my this previous slide with regard to turning our backs on the industry. One of the things that we didn't pay attention to is what clients were telling us. And in some cases, it was just simply statements that they were making, and we were not putting two and two together, if you will. One of which was there was significant indigestion with regard to what I'm going to call a lack of premium guarantees. Basically, they would tell you the story about how Uncle Jim was in had a policy, and his premiums kept going up and going up and going up and going up. And there's some frustration there. The other piece of it is this idea of use it or lose it, okay? Because, Uncle Jim's twin brother, Uncle Tim, he had a policy that he owned for a long period of time, and then he died of a heart attack without any real trailing consequences, and he didn't use that policy. So there was a lot of indigestion about this idea of use it or lose it. And we had this feedback in front of us. It may not have appeared as clear and direct as what I just had on that screen, but it was there, all right? And now we're more aware of it than ever. They want guaranteed pricing, and we have that available, and they want to know they're going to get something for what they see as a considerable expense. No problem with that. We're prepared to deal with it. That's a good situation, is being prepared to deal with these kinds of things. So we're back. The notes I made to myself as I was going through all of this was the idea, it's a golf analogy, which is to tee it high and let it fly. Okay, we have this great opportunity. This awareness is there. They're asking about it rather than having to be maneuvered into having this conversation. Okay, the awareness is higher than ever. Our industry as a whole and that overlaps into the Medicare specialists that are on this call, we have come to terms with the fact that great no longer has to be the enemy of good. A good plan with a clear understanding of what it's going to do and how it's going to be deployed, okay, that is better than nothing at all. All right. One of the great concerns going along is people not understanding exactly what it is that these things do. You've got the opportunity to work with them on that and make sure that they're clear about it. We do have more solutions available than we've ever had before. And by virtue of a large number of carriers, and when I say large, we're talking more than a dozen now that have jumped into the extended care space, we are in a situation in many states, not all, but many. We're in a situation where underwriting is no longer an obstacle for us. We have products that are underwriting advantaged. So the important thing with this is having the knowledge base so you can make sure that your clients understand what their options are, okay? And the first thing you've got to understand is the difference between need and necessity. And some of you are going to argue with me about that, and you can argue with me if you want. But if you look at this and really think about what I'm talking about here, health insurance is perceived in the broader market as a necessity. And when the reality is, it is a need. And I say that because the likelihood that somebody is going to have one of these events that you hear about it, and it's like, oh my gosh, so-and-so had to declare bankruptcy because of some issue with health insurance and a health event that didn't get paid, okay? Think about your tenure in this business and how many people that you know personally that has occurred with or to. And I suspect that those numbers are teeny, tiny, okay? So, and that ties into the situation where Medicare, Sup, Medicare Advantage, those are important, okay? They're affordable, they're available, but they're important. And I point that out because if you run into somebody, and every once in a while you'll find somebody that's just kind of a cranky elderly individual, and they don't deal with insurance and blah, 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 blah. So they're just taking their base plan. They're just taking their Medicare plan. Their A and their B, they don't have a Sup, et cetera, okay? If they had a significant health event, they could conceivably be out of pocket $15,000 or $20,000, okay? But that would be a unicorn. It would be a 1% occurrence, okay? And that's important because of this necessity, something that is a requirement or is indispensable, and it is unavoidable. So if you step back and think about the things we have told you over a long period of time about long-term care, you remember this. There's a 75% chance that people that have reached the age of 65 will have some sort of long-term care event. They will need long-term care services in some way, shape, or form, okay? Well, if they get into that, they're not getting out of that for 20 grand or 25 grand. It's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 175 grand, okay? And that is catastrophic financially. It is a guarantee for 97% of the people that you know that are the average Americans that have an average American type financial structure for their retirement. It is a guarantee that $175,000 hit for one of them. And there's a good chance it could be both. With that $175,000 hit, as I said at the very beginning of this, it blows that retirement plan to smithereens. So if you are not approaching your conversations with your clients in this area about the necessity of some sort of plan here, you're missing the boat, okay? The need is addressed. The need is not bringing into the middle of the screen, so to speak, the likelihood that it's a financial catastrophe. That's the difference between need and necessity. You should change your orientation. I was going to say you need to change your orientation, but we'll skip that. You should change the orientation of your conversations with clients to focus on why getting some sort of coverage for long-term care events is in fact a necessity. Given the likelihood that they're going to deal with significant events down the road, the only thing that they can do is work with you. And thankfully, we have way better resources, and we're going to look at that here in a minute. Way better resources to deal with this. So, kind of circling back to the beginning, why is long-term care insurance, why is engaging in these conversations in some way, type, or form so important? You can read this. And again, it comes back to the same math that we've been talking about for 15 years. 90% of the people that you're talking to have never had this conversation. And it doesn't have to be about insurance. In fact, it should be about protecting these retirement assets right here. That's really what it is you're doing when you sit down and have this conversation. And long-term care is the biggest threat. There is nothing bigger other than an absolute collapse in the markets. There's nothing out there that's bigger. So options, and we've got lots of options. We've got a full set of traditional products out there, led by Mutual of Omaha, Thrivent, National Guardian Life. All right. We've got two really good worksite options that we have made a lot of use of over a long period of time. And then we've got all kinds of hybrid choices, and hybrids are coming more and more into focus because of that those guarantees that I talked about, a guarantee that the premiums are fixed and a guarantee that somebody's getting paid in some way, shape, or form. And literally flying in the middle lane, coming right at you, is this idea of short-term care. Okay, if you're avoiding it, if you're dodging the calls that our marketing team is making to talk to you about these things, you're making a mistake, because sooner or later you're going to have a really uncomfortable conversation with Carol Davis about why they don't have anything in place to deal with the health situation that Bob Davis has going on. So traditional product features, as you can see, not uncommon. You've probably heard us talk about it. You've probably seen information that we've sent out. You probably heard other people talking about it. Okay, well, for a long time, that was the way that we went. The market has shifted, the demand has shifted, and now we have these heavy hybrids. And when I say heavy hybrid, I'm talking about the fact that you get into fairly complex second to die strategies and things like that here. But what you do have with these products, you do have the ability to guarantee those premiums, and you do have the ability to tell them unequivocally that there is going to be some benefit for the premiums that they have paid. We've also got the light hybrids, and when I say light hybrids, these are a situation where you buy a $200,000 IUL that's got a long-term care rider attached to it. Okay, so you get that premium guarantee. You get that guarantee that somebody somehow is getting paid with it. All right, it's just easier to deal with. Takes care of two things. Really popular sale in the 35 to 50-year-old age group, because they can certainly use additional life insurance. The fact that it is going to do two things for them in the event of some kind of catastrophic change in health, that's an added benefit. But the single biggest thing is they are putting some plan in place, and that's the key of all of this. Okay, and I listed GTL on this, and I should not have listed GTL on this because they do have a product that does this, but that's not principally what we have them for. These light hybrids typically run 30 to 79, as you can see. We talked about the other pieces here and what makes them of some value. I threw this in here because I think a lot of times agents shy away from these conversations. Okay, and they shy away from these conversations because they think it's complicated, and the reality is it doesn't have to be perceived as complicated, because it's not. Okay, these services are a revenue stream that is going to come your client's way when predetermined conditions are met. All right, so there isn't any changing in anything. You know exactly what the conditions are. virtually always 2 of 6 ADLs or severe cognitive impairment. Once that has been met and the elimination period has been satisfied, here comes the revenue. And that revenue offsets that big, we talked about at the very beginning, that big $7,000 or $8,000 hole that has been gashed in the retirement plan. So it does start with you asking a simple question. We'll get to that here in a minute. Okay, when's the best time to buy? Now. Can't be any more specific than that. The people that you're talking to, by and large, are younger and healthier today than they're ever going to be. You got to capitalize on that. You've got the ability to offer them guaranteed rates. You've got the ability to offer them guaranteed benefits. Okay, that is a combination of things that you can't say enough about. Okay, so I mentioned before, simple question. Here's our buddy Fred. He's our agent. Works for Amalgamated Insurance. And it's a very simple start to a conversation. This is Fred at Amalgamated. I've added something new to my practice this year, and I want to sit down and talk with you and Carol about helping you protect their retirement plan. Can we meet next Tuesday at 7 p.m.? I can't stress to you and for you how many advantages you have in picking up the phone and making this call. And those advantages are that nobody's done this before. Okay, it's a new thing. As they're getting older, they're starting to think more about retirement planning. Okay, they're starting to be concerned about whether they've got enough money available. If you're paying attention at all to what's going on politically, you know that right now the Social Security retirement age is almost 60, or it's almost 67, and it looks like it's going to move up. Probably not going to be super impactful for folks in our age bracket, but it's certainly going to be super impactful for folks that are in the younger age brackets, because now they're looking at working to age 70 to be able to get access to that particular part. And it's important to note, when you hear all this bullshit going on out there about dumping Social Security and such, this is a program that all of us who work and pay taxes have been paying into for a long period of time. And I know some of the folks that are on this call, I know how old you guys are, and I know that you've been paying into this for as long a period of time as I have. So it's not going to go away, but when you can access it, it's going to change. And so it's going to be important for them to have a plan in place that's protected, that allows them privately to take care of these things before they get to the point where Social Security comes into play. And again, can't stress it enough. No one else is talking to them about this. Okay, they know who you are and they know what you do. They're actually more surprised that you are not talking to them about what you do than they would be if you did. Okay, so you have that advantage with it. And from personal experience, I can tell you that there is no more uncomfortable situation to be in as an insurance agent or as an insurance exec than to be in a situation where someone you see them walking with a walker since the last time that you met with them, or you see them walking with a cane, or you see them in a wheelchair, or you hear from someone else, oh my goodness, did you hear about Dave? He had a stroke, or he had this, or he had that, and the situation has changed drastically. That is so much more of an awkward situation to be in than it is to talk to a neighbor while you're both outside working in your yards or whatever it is, about what it is that you do and why you would like to talk to them about protecting that retirement plan. They're actually going to be grateful because they don't know enough to know exactly what it is, but they know enough to know that they don't want to have something screw it up. So that's a significant advantage, that you've got a significant thing that is in your corner. Okay, this is the simple question. So when you look at your commitment to your practice, your agency, and yourself and your clients, what are you going to do differently in the second half of 2025 to help your clients, to stabilize your agency, to stabilize your revenue, and be positioned to where you can increase your value proposition score? I'm telling you emphatically that asking this question right here is going to start you down a path that benefits everybody in a big way. But we can't do it for you. The team here, the 6 of us on the marketing team, we can talk to you about it. We can perhaps help you get a little bit more comfortable with it, but we can't pick up the phone, we can't dial it, and we can't be on that conversation with them. It's just not practical. You've got to be able to do this. If you're not going to make that commitment to your clients and to yourself and to your agency, why not? Okay, you've given 30 minutes to this call here this morning. Okay, in that same 30-minute period of time, you could make 3 phone calls this afternoon to folks and start this process in play. And the resources are there and are available for you to be able to take the next step after they say, yeah, let's get that scheduled. We can't do it Tuesday, but we can do it next Wednesday. And can we move it to 6 o'clock? Boom. Now you got an appointment. Okay. So now you've really gotten past that fear piece, and you've stepped into the arena, if you want to call it that, and you're ready to go forward. But you've got to do that, and you've got to make that commitment to you, and you've got to make that commitment to them. So, all right, that is the sum total of what I've got here. We're right at a half an hour, which is normally our time, and we do appreciate you making that time available. I'm going to unmute everybody and open this up for questions. We will be doing follow-ups on this presentation later today with you to answer other questions, talk about product availability. It is important to know, and you hear this every time we talk about products, compliance comes into play. You can't legally start talking about some of this stuff unless you have the proper licensing and approval on file with the carrier going forward. Okay, you just can't do it. So that means that when we're having this conversation, compliance and contracting are going to be at the forefront. So, all right, well, I did unmute everybody. I'm seeing most everybody is self-muted, which we appreciate that and just helping us keep it moving forward. But we are available, and I do have the availability of taking a few questions here. All right, Howard is raising his hand, or he was raising his hand. Got a question, Howard?
Yes, I'm still have my hand raised. I'm a newbie to your organization. Where are you located? And I need to know what your time zone is so I don't call you at an inappropriate time.
All right, well, good question. American Independent Marketing, we're located on the West Coast, Pacific time zone. We have our office hours are 7 a.m. Pacific to 5 p.m. Pacific. Okay, so feel free to call us anytime there, and we'll be available here the rest of today to answer questions that you might have. We're looking forward to having a conversation with you. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Nice presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, anybody else out there with questions? Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, quick reminder, our next webinar on the 15th, that's a week from today, same bat time, 9 a.m., same bat channel right here. That's going to be Derek Lape with the Pivot Playbook, and that ties into, as I said at the beginning, that ties into this idea, which is pivoting away from your primary product set to do the kinds of things you need to do to take care of your client. So since there are not any additional questions, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. We will get this processed. We will get it uploaded to our website where we do store all of our webinars. We appreciate everybody making your time available this morning. We will be making follow-up calls here later in the day. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.